The sequel trilogy brought us Rey and Ben, bastardized versions of the EU's Jaina and Jacen Solo. The Return of Palpatine, which to be clear, I utterly despise as a concept for its impact on Anakin's story arc, was done better in the EU than on the big screen. They could have just as easily told existing stories and done so well, but instead chose to rip them off and strip them of all their charm and substance and present a weak, watered-down, muddled variation that makes zero sense even within the context of their own story. And this idea of force healing is no exception. Today, we're going to discuss yet another character I believe these parasites leached from in order to imbue Rey with this unique and incredibly important power. Hey guys, welcome back. First, we're going to take a look at this article from Bounding Into Comics, which goes into detail about how force healing was introduced in the sequels and the ways Disney has attempted to retcon the explanation for how Rey acquired this ability. Then we'll go into the character I believe they siphoned this idea from. The article begins. Lucasfilm and Star Wars are hard at work doing their very best to confuse all their fans by not only introducing continuity-breaking force abilities, but also changing how they originally introduced and explained them. Now, specifically what we're talking about here are the different contradictory, nonsensical ways Disney has been trying to explain the force healing power demonstrated in the Rise of Skywalker. The latest explanation appears in the newly published ebook, The Star Wars Book, which reveals it is actually a force ability connected to the Force Dyad. As described in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, the Visual Dictionary, a Force Dyad is a link through the Force that connects two individuals across space and time. The Star Wars book goes on to explain how the Force Dyad is involved in force healing. Those in a dyad possess another unusual ability, it reads. They can use the Force to heal a wounded person or creature, but this act also requires that the healer transfer some of their Force energy, which can temporarily weaken them. As noted in the article, this new revelation on how force healing works doesn't fit into how Lucasfilm and Star Wars previously described how Rey learned the ability. In Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, the Visual Dictionary, it's revealed Rey learns a force healing technique from the Jedi text. The Visual Dictionary explains she uses the underpinnings of such teachings to heal the broken kyber crystal in her lightsaber. This version of how Rey learns force healing is also echoed in the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker. While retelling how Rey uses force heal to heal the Vexes, Arthur Ray Carson writes, "She was acting on pure instinct now. Rey closed her eyes, reached for the Force. This would call for a different technique, something she learned from the Jedi text when she was mending Luke's kyber crystal. This time she would give." She explains, "Healing the Vexes had exhausted her, but it had also opened up new avenues of the Force to her, something about both giving and taking, about a more perfect oneness than she'd understood before." Later, when she heals Kylo Ren, Rey not only draws on her own life force, but apparently the life teeming in the ocean around her. Carson writes, "Rey drew on everything around her, so much life in that violent ocean, but mostly she drew on herself. She gave." There's no mention of Rey being part of a Force Dyad in connection with her ability to be able to use force healing. Even in the film itself, we see her studying the text, acting presumably instinctively to heal the Vexes, and then realizing her ability and using it to heal Kylo. If the Star Wars book's version is correct, then that would mean that the child, or Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian, who was also shown an ability to force heal, must be part of a Force Dyad years before Rey and Kylo Ren. And if the Star Wars book's version is wrong, then it still fails to address how the child knows this ability that was supposedly lost to the Jedi and stored in these Jedi texts, only to be rediscovered and applied by Rey. What this really is a case of the cover-up being worse than the crime. This concept of force healing is only a twisted waste of perfectly good lore they could have brought to the big screen. There are several examples of force healing being used to varying degrees and success in the EU, but the one closest to what we see here And the one I'm betting was used as inspiration, or bastardized, if you will, was the healing ability of Cade Skywalker, an ability sometimes referred to as Dark Transfer. In Star Wars Legacy 7, the one I think they actually are using as source material, he used this ability to resurrect Princess Marcia Fell, who had previously saved his life. What's interesting here, and why I believe this is where they got the idea from, is that Cade Skywalker is a descendant of Luke Skywalker, and Marcia Fell is descended from none other than Jaina Solo. They gave Rey, so-called Skywalker, Cade's ability, but interestingly, none of the pain and suffering and sacrifice. What do I mean? Well, let's take a look. Throughout the story, there's emotional conflict regarding whether Cade even should save her, as he was the one blamed for her injury. There's religious conflict regarding whether the Force intends for her to be saved and whether the Force should be used in this manner. There's an unavoidable risk of turning to the dark side, something he's specifically warned about and has to consider. There's a question of consent, whether she even wants to be saved this way, having already said she doesn't fear death. There's also balanced against this an external motivation. Her vision and ability to unite the people is something greater about her worth saving. There's time limitations. He could go and train and perfect his skill, but she might be long gone before he masters the ability. And most important of all, there's sacrifice and there's loss. Because after he does this, Cade is forever changed. Rey experiences none of this. Like so much else, she got the benefit of a snippet of a really good EU storyline without any of the context, any of the backstory, any of the challenges and pain and hardship that would have developed her as a character, but also endeared her to fans. No, because they would rather Disneyfy the story to make it unsufferably unrecognizable and then retcon it to death, trying to fix the mess they made after fans complain. But there's no fixing this. There's clearly no lesson learned on their part here. Their total lack of respect for the story grows worse by the day. And this is just a continuation of that, the latest example. But hey, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.